ago today, July 25th, 2023, is when Triple H, Paul Levesque, aka Vince McMahon's son in law, the husband of Stephanie McMahon, took over as the WWE head of creative. A move that many wrestling fans wanted for a long time. Of course, Triple H ran the black and gold era of NXT from about 2012 to 2019. And then, of course, when they couldn't beat AEW, NXT turned into 2.0, and now it's back as NXT. We all know that. Listen, the WWE product under Vince McMahon at times was very stale. And when you look back at 2018 and 2019 compared to what WWE is today, it was a completely different product. WWE was very entertaining in 2020 during the COVID era. They did a lot of different things. It was very good in 2021 when they came back with fans. WrestleMania 38, I've always said, is one of the best WrestleManias of all time. But after WrestleMania 38 is when things kind of fell flat again, and it sort of felt like WrestleMania 38 was Vince McMahon's departing gift. Of course, that was right around when the scandal came out, right after about Backlash of that year. And then, July 23rd, July 22nd, excuse me, Vince McMahon makes the retirement announcement on Twitter right before SmackDown, about 4:05 p.m. Eastern time that day. We didn't really know what to expect, if it was real, if he was going to be out of creative. Remember how crazy of a time this was in wrestling. AEW was basically dominating the world. CM Punk was AEW world champion. There was a lot of backlash on WWE due to the Vince McMahon scandal. And as soon as Triple H came in as head of creative, I was a little bit worried because of the fact I did not know if he was going to run NXT the way running Raw and SmackDown, excuse me, the way he would run NXT, which is the more AEW style, which I don't really prefer. It's the more in-ring style versus the more storytelling style. And I think Triple H has done a really good job mixing great wrestling. I think on Raw, sometimes there's better wrestling than SmackDown, which makes sense because Raw is 3 hours. Raw is still hard to fill. SmackDown, especially when Roman Reigns is there, does flow a lot faster than Raw. Even though Raw has had some good parts, Seth Rollins, the Judgment Day, everything going on with the women's division there, and Rhea Ripley, Otis, and the Maximum Male Models. Everything recently on Raw, Logan Paul, Ricochet, Cody Rhodes, Brock Lesnar has all been great. It did take Triple H, I think, a little bit of time to get things right. It does help, I think, now that we have a World Heavyweight Champion on Raw. I was a little bit opposed to the fact of the World Heavyweight Championship versus the Undisputed Championship. Roman Reigns did not know if Raw necessarily needed another World Championship. It was certainly the right call. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn becoming the Undisputed Tag Team Champions was certainly the right call. I do think from about July to about WrestleMania, they kind of relaxed the brand restrictions a little bit, which sort of made Raw a little bit more entertaining without obviously a world champion on the brand. We know how great SummerSlam was. The spot of Brock Lesnar lifting the tractor of Roman Reigns, I will never forget it. It was run free in my ad. It's one of the best spots I've ever seen. The show was very enjoyable. So was Clash of the Castle. Clash of the Castle was a pure A plus premium live event, as pretty much all of the premium live events under Triple H's watch. SummerSlam, Clash of the Castle, Extreme Rules, Survivor Series War Games, Royal Rumble, Elimination Chamber, WrestleMania 39, which was still spectacular. Maybe not as good as WrestleMania 38, but was absolutely spectacular. Backlash in Puerto Rico was amazing. Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia was amazing. Money in the Bank in London was amazing. And now we get to one of the most anticipated SummerSlams of all time, I would say, with obviously Cody Brock, Roman J, everything going on with Seth Rollins and the Judgment Day. You got Ronda Rousey, Shayna Baszler, Logan Paul, Ricochet, the triple threat for the Women's World Championship, which is another thing Triple H has done, which in the draft, obviously sending Rhea Ripley, who was the SmackDown Women's Champion at the time, over to Raw, and sending Bianca Belair, who was the Raw Women's Champion at the time, over to SmackDown. Now we have the Women's World Championship on SmackDown, the Women's World Heavyweight Championship on Raw, making them equal to the men. Really like that decision. I think the one thing he needs to do is sort of take Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, get the undisputed tag team championships off them, maybe rename the belts, give SmackDown the WWE Tag Team Championships and Raw the World Tag Team Championships the way it was done back in the day. I think that's a good idea. I don't think Kevin and Sami should be splitting shows right now. Obviously, when it comes to returns, and listen, I know I'm just spitballing here, but there is a lot that happened in the last year in WWE. Bray Wyatt was an anticipated return that struck out. I would say he had one match against LA Knight, and LA Knight got over, and Bray Wyatt really hasn't been seen yet. I really would like to see the Fiend come back. I think in terms of guys that have come over from NXT, I really do like Bronson Reed. But off the top of my head, obviously Hit Row, complete strike and miss. Karrion Kross, complete strike and miss. Candice LeRae, complete strike and miss. To this point, Johnny Gargano, complete strike and miss. So there have been some guys that he's brought back or guys that have been called over from NXT that I don't think have gotten as over on the main roster. Part of that has been due to injuries. Some of that is because WWE's talent nowadays is absolutely incredible. Speaking of talents, one of the best decisions he made was turning Dominic Mysterio heel. Dominic Mysterio, now next to the Tribal Chief, is one of the most hated wrestlers in all of the professional wrestling business. Overall, we know attendance is up. We know merchandise is up. Merchandise is at the point of no return, basically. They have the highest grossing merchandise in the history of the company. And the one thing Triple H has done, I would say, is he's been more patient. He hasn't been rushed to push superstars because of fan reaction. He isn't changing storylines left and right week after week. He's giving you investment. He's giving you good matches. He's giving good story. It's a good mix of sports entertainment and professional wrestling, if you will. And I think the product is very enjoyable to watch. The crowds are very loud. They're selling out arenas again, and WWE is in a really good space. And it's basically Triple H taking the ideas that Vince McMahon had. Because I'm never doubting that Vince, obviously, as a booker, he wasn't the greatest booker, but he had some great ideas sometimes. I think Vince's intentions were good. It was the execution that sometimes fell flat. And I think for the most part, again, outside of some of the returns, like Emma and Madcap Moss and Nikki ASH going back to Nikki Cross. Some of these gimmick changes and some of the returns I already mentioned, Gargano, Hit Row, etc., have not popped. I think Bronson Reed is going to pop. I think Pretty Deadly has done a good job on SmackDown. I think they're doing a good job pushing Zoe Stark on Raw. The Women's Tag Team Championships have obviously come back. Chelsea Green has been another good addition. I think Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez and the feud with Rhea Ripley has been pretty good. So there's a lot of pretty good to great content. There's not a lot of things that I'm not liking on the product. Listen, I think Austin Theory has kind of fell flat. I think he's one guy that has suffered from Triple H's booking, and that may be because of guys like Grayson Waller coming in and taking his spot. Now, NXT, I don't watch a lot, but I do like the idea of them, bringing in a Seth Rollins, a Dominic Mysterio, a Baron Corbin to the brand to give the brand more legitimacy. And overall, you cannot question WWE's success right now because they're killing it on premium live event ratings. They're killing it on regular TV ratings. The Bloodline itself is drawing close to nearly 3 million viewers on SmackDown, which is absurd. It would double what all 4 AEW shows bring in right now in terms of, people over 2 viewership wise. So WWE, unlike the last, 3-4 years, when AEW came in, AEW was the internet darling, and everybody thought it was legitimate competition to WWE, and it looked so for a while, and AEW was gaining momentum. But ever since Triple H took over, it is WWE regaining the hotness. And everybody, I think, has always acknowledged that WWE will always be the top wrestling promotion in the world. But it is how they execute, it's how they treat their fans, it's how they draw their stories, and it's how their product. Obviously, the product changes in and out. Some weeks it's going to be hot, some weeks it's going to be cold, some years it's going to be hot, some years it's going to be cold. But I think Triple H has brought a fresh light in the wrestling business. things that make sense, bring back the words wrestling and hospital and things like that. It's really the small details that he's done. And I can't wait again till SummerSlam. I think LA Knight is due for a big push soon. We'll see. There's a lot of free agency happening in the professional wrestling world. MJF is obviously available. Will he jump ship? I always thought Cody Rhodes, the big guy that jumped ship, maybe MJF does as well. But I do think Triple H has done a tremendous job with WWE, and I look forward to seeing what he does in the year to come. If I were to give him a grade for his first year as head of creative, I would say an A minus. Again, he's not hitting 1,000. He's not perfect, but he's been very good. And there are a lot of people invested right now in WWE, more so than in a long time. And I think that speaks more to the game and his commitment to this business than anything else as his head of creative reign in the first year in charge. Like that clip from the Brands World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brands World podcast right here on YouTube.